The Bavarian Alps and the village of Königssee, Germany. Welcome to ESPN International coverage of the Corel World Cup Bobsleigh Series. The sleds are getting ready, and a look at the standings entering this event. On the World Cup Tour, Gunther Huber, despite the overall lead, trails Canadian Pierre Lueders in the two-man competition. Sepp Dastaller currently third, two Americans in the top six. We've got action in both the two- and four-man competition today, and before we get to that, here are highlights from the first heat of action in the two-man. This was American sled Brian Scheimer and his brakeman Robert Olesen. These two sliders have won two events this year. They're currently in third place. Now you're looking at Sepp Dastaller of Germany, third place in last year's World Cup standings, and he's third place entering this event. But the kingpin, as has been mentioned so far this season, the Italians in two-man, Gunther Huber and Antonio Tartaglia. They lead after the first heat. They've been consistent, but they're looking for their very first victory of the season in two-man. 48.17 200ths ahead of Dastaller, Brian Scheimer, 1700ths off the pace. Now we get set for heat number two. Here's Switzerland number one, the driver Reto Gurci, his brakeman Guido Acklin. 5.73, the best start time we've seen so far. And a 5.65, 800ths ahead of the pace. Now, this is one aspect of the sport that is not only so important, the start that is, it's an aspect which this Swiss pilot has improved greatly this season. Nice clean exit on what is one of the trickier courses on the Corel World Cup Series. A very short course here in Königssee, Germany. 112 kilometers an hour, that is a good indication of just how well these sleds are doing. This is the silver medalist from the 1994 Winter Olympic Games in Lillehammer, Norway. Getting ready for the upcoming World Championships on his home course. That's the next stop for the bobsledders. And now crossing the finish line in a time of 48.33 by nearly a quarter of a second ahead of the rest of the field. A great showing by Switzerland number one, Reto Gurci, and Guido Acklin. They move up a couple of places. I mentioned their great starting. Acklin, such a huge athlete at 6'3" or so, perhaps the biggest athlete in the entire World Cup Bobsled Tour, propelling that sled down in back of Gurci. The tricky S combination right before the long straightaway and the exit of the fourth and final S, near perfect for the veteran pilot from Switzerland. The Swiss have the lead with still many more sleds to come from Königssee. The Corel World Cup Series is brought to you by Corel Draw 7, productivity, power, and precision.
If you want full Office Suite power at a word processor price, look no further than Corel WordPerfect Suite. Corel WordPerfect Suite includes an exceptionally intelligent word processor, an award-winning spreadsheet, amazing presentation graphics, plus business graphics and utilities, hundreds of fonts and thousands of clip art images. Corel WordPerfect Suite delivers Office Suite power at a word processor price.
Back here in Königssee, a check at our Columbia weather conditions. 1.7 degrees Fahrenheit, clear sky, very calm winds. The ice temperature, a speedy -6.6. Talk about speedy, let's talk about tricky. This course is considered one of the toughest in the entire Corel World Cup Bobsleigh Series, though it is one of the shortest, the length of just 1,250 meters with a vertical drop of 117 meters over a 9.3 degree grade. One of the shortest, but no mistakes can be made on this Königssee course. At this point, speeds are approaching close to 100 kilometers an hour. The long straightaway, but get set for one of the biggest turns in all of bobsleigh. Over 360 degrees on the Kreisel corner. Out of the Kreisel, there are a series of very tight turns. Lots of times the sleds will bump. It's not a question of the bumps, it's a question of the speed generated at this point. And finally, around the finish curve and the uphill to the finish line, a competitive time will be among the quickest on the entire circuit, somewhere in the low 48-second range. American driver Brian Scheimer comes into this competition as the hottest driver on the Corel World Cup Bobsleigh Series. His brakeman is Robert Olesen. They have won the last two-man competitions. Third place after the first heat. And the push bar has broken. The push bar used to propel that sled down in the first 50 meters is broken. They are now in the sled, but that is going to cost them all sorts of time. As you can see, they're 0.15 of a second already off of the pace in 4th place. And it appears as if the Brian Scheimer American winning streak will come to an end. This is a veteran driver. He should have no further problems on the way down. 35.66, the split time of Swiss driver Reto Gurci. And Scheimer will be off the pace somewhat. 36 even. He falls even further back, 7th place. So this is a great driver, a great starting team. The Bodine sleds are fast, but they are not immune to the possible mishap. And that's what happened up at the top. All of the rest of this run was moot. He's in 2nd place, 0.4 of a second off the pace. He will fall to at least 4th place. And there again, a look just after that push bar snapped and the anguish that must have caused Brian Scheimer right there and then. Credit him for getting into that sled and driving the rest of the way down smoothly. The Americans are currently in 2nd place, but most likely will not win a medal here in Königssee. Next up, Germany number 1. The driver is Sepp Dastaller, who, when he's not bobsledding, is a musician and has just written his first song. He talked about it.
I
think my song is quite good, and I hope that my song will sell very good. And singing and music is my 2nd leg for working.
In the background there, that actually was a little bit of Sepp Dastaller's song. It's about bobsledding, and so is this run right now. It's a little bit about a fast start. 300s off the pace set earlier by the Swiss sled, who's currently in the lead down at the bottom. Now 500s off. Dastaller, Thomas Platzer, Germany won. 2nd place after the first heat. And a nice exit as we await the speed marker coming up in a little bit. The long straightaway now towards Kreisel. And 112 kilometers an hour, the same speed as Reto Gurci a bit earlier. The Germans are still looking for their first victory of the season in 2-man bobsleigh. That is perhaps one of the biggest surprises of the season. Now a dead heat, tied with Reto Gurci for 1st place. So this is close right to the finish, and he does it by 0.06 of a second. The Germans have put themselves at least in a position to win this event. 0.06 ahead on the heat, and as you see, 0.22 of a second for the 2 heats. Thomas Platzer, Sepp Dastaller, currently in 1st place, 1:36.46. Try to imagine what you see here. It's essentially a track star, sprinting, but pushing a huge weight and doing it all on ice. It takes a tremendous amount of precision to handle the first 50 meters of a bobsled race. Great celebration for Germany won. They have won at least a silver medal. Just 1 sled remains. Getting ready at the top is Italy number 1 and Günther Huber. You got to wonder whether Huber's thinking about the very last race on the Carrel World Cup Series. At his home track in Cortina, Italy, this was Huber's 4-man sled just a few weeks ago, crashing around the finish curve. Not only were all 4 athletes okay and unhurt, they went on to pour the champagne in celebration of the victory in that race. Günther Huber, the overall World Cup leader, currently in 2nd place in the 2-man standings, but a chance to move up. His brakeman is Antonio Tartaglia. These two have gotten great starts this year. And a 5.66, just 1/100th of a second off the pace set by the Swiss sled. Their lead, however, was only 2/100ths of a second ahead of the Germany sled of Sepp Dastaller that just went down the track in 1st place. Not a bad exit, a little bit of a waver, straight down with a little bump there. Actually, another bump there. This is going to be a tight race. 112 kilometers an hour, that ties for the best time we've seen so far. 3/100ths ahead of the pace. Italy number 1, looking for their first 2-man victory of the year. They need a time of 48.29. They're now 3/100ths of a second off the pace. 48.29 is the time they'll need. They do it. 48.28. So by 1/100th of a second, the Italians have won this race. and Sepp Dastaller, and the Germans are stunned down at the finish. Italy number 1, Günter Huber and Antonio Tartaglia are the winners of the 1997 Carrel World Cup two-man from Königssee. A check at the final standings shows Italy number 1 by just 1/100th of a second ahead of Germany 1, Swiss 1, number 3. The unfortunate Americans, USA 2 in 4th place, while Christian Reich of Switzerland rounds out the top 5 with the victory. The Italians and Günter Huber moves ahead of Pierre Luters of Canada into 1st place in the Carrel two-man World Cup standings. Sepp Dastaller remains in 3rd place. The Italians celebrate the two-man. We still have the 4-man competition.
If you want full Office Suite power at a word processor price, look no further than Carrel WordPerfect Suite. Carrel WordPerfect Suite includes an exceptionally intelligent word processor, an award-winning spreadsheet, amazing presentation graphics, plus business graphics and utilities, hundreds of fonts and thousands of clip art images. Carrel WordPerfect Suite delivers Office Suite power at a word processor price.
A simply spectacular day in Königssee, Germany, in the Bavarian Alps, just a matter of a few kilometers away from the city of Salzburg, Austria, and we're set now for 4-man bobsleigh competition on the Carrel World Cup Series. This future bobsled champion watches on, and we tell you who the kingpins are presently. Günter Huber, the winner of the just completed two-man, is leading in the 4-man standings, but how tight is it? Just 1 point ahead of Wolfgang Hoppe, just 2 points ahead of Switzerland's Marcel Rohner. Dirk Wiese, with 2 victories, is currently in 4th place. Well, speaking of Hoppe, the great Olympic champion is on hand and had a strong first heat showing. Hoppe, at 39 years old, still going strong. He's the defending World Cup champion, but the defending Olympic 4-man champion is his teammate, Germany number 1, and driver Harald Jodai. Switzerland number 2, Reto Gerci, figures strong in this race. The Swiss currently in a tie for the lead midway through this competition and tied with their teammates. Swiss 1, driver Marcel Rohner, last year's world 4-man silver medalist, has picked up where he's left off this year. And checking out the standings, tied to the 100th of a second, the 2 Swiss sleds, Jodai in 3rd, Hoppe and Austria's Hubert Schoesser tied for 4th place. Taking a look at our Columbia weather conditions, very much as it was for the two-man. The temperature just above 0 degrees Celsius, still no wind, fair skies, and a cool minus 5.5 degree ice temperature. Well, the Germans are very strong, in particular in 4-man, and the strongest of them all this year has been this driver. Germany number 3, Dirk Wiese is the driver. His crew consists of Christoph Barsch, Marcus Zimmermann, and Michael Lechmeyer. They have the best start so far in the event by 0.03 of a second. The only reason Dirk Wiese is not on top of the Carrel World Cup 4-man standings is because he missed the first event. There have been 3 races since that opening event, and Wiese has won 2 of them and is on his way to a first-place time here. Despite the bumps, which we see virtually every sled do, they have a great speed going, 113 kilometers an hour, and their latest split time is now over 1/4 of a second ahead of the field. Dirk Wiese in search of the hat trick, looking for win number 3 so far this season. Now approaching the finish line, and by 0.36 of a second, he has the best time of the heat. A bit of a snap on the part of the heads on this tough, short, windy track, but they recover quickly. And a finish time for Germany number 3 of 1:35.06. They have the lead with 5 sleds remaining.
If you want full Office Suite power at a word processor price, look no further than Carrel WordPerfect Suite. Carrel WordPerfect Suite includes an exceptionally intelligent word processor, an award-winning spreadsheet, amazing presentation graphics, plus business graphics and utilities, hundreds of fonts and thousands of clip art images. Carrel WordPerfect Suite delivers Office Suite power at a word processor price.
Deutschland's Dirk Wiese already with 2 wins this year. The victors get the spoils, a kiss from his wife, but there still are several sleds remaining. And will his standing be good enough to win yet another medal?
Oh, I don't think so. It was a nice race. The second one was very good for me, but I think it's not enough for the first or second or third place.
Well, only time will tell. Time and a bunch of Wies's teammates, including Germany #2 and Wolfgang Hoppe. This is what happened to Hoppe just last week in Cortina, Italy, and that was an ugly-looking crash. However, Hoppe was okay. It's reported to be the first ever crash in the long and storied career of this, perhaps the greatest of all bobsleigh drivers. He's in the sled quickly. The teammates follow suit, trying to better 5.64, and they don't do it, 5.66. So Wolfgang Hoppe will have to do his usual brilliant driving the rest of the way down this short course if he wants to move ahead of teammate Dirk Wiese and into the lead. Kind of a shaky exit. Now the long straightaway. This is where those heavy sleds will try to pick up some speed. Talking about speed, 114 kilometers an hour. Great speed so far, but the sled is wavering up and down. Now the bottom portions, the bottom reaches of this Königssee course. Wolfgang Hoppe. More Olympic medals than anyone in the history of this sport, but he's a 1/10 of a second off the pace. Needs a 47.50, no, 47.63. 1300s back for the heat, 700s back for the competition, and Dirk Wiese down in the finish weighing sled knows that he has moved up one more spot. Disappointment on the part of Wolfgang Hoppe, still a fierce competitor after over 15 years of international competition. The Germany barrage continues. Germany #1, Harold Jodai. Torsten Voss, Alexander Selig, and Udo Lehmann, and a 5.68. Bit of a disappointment. Fourth best start, 400ths of a second off the pace. If this Germany sled fails to make it down in first or second place, that means that Dirk Wiese at the bottom has won at least a medal. 35.25 the latest split. 114 kilometers an hour, same speed as Hoppe. And a 35.36, so Jodai losing time. Wiese watching his teammate with great interest. Could Dirk Wiese perform the magic again? Could he win a third race? He's at the finish, but here's Harold Jodai crossing the finish. No, 1500ths of a second off the pace. They are tied for first place. Celebration for Dirk Wiese. He's won a medal. Celebration for the entire team. Well, their start time of 5.68 was a disappointment for these four big German athletes still in search of another victory. They won the opener in Altenburg, Germany, but have failed to do well since. They're disappointed, but they're tied for the lead. Germany #1 and Germany #3 currently in first place, but two sleds remain, both from Switzerland. Reto Garci needs a 57.72, coming off of a bronze medal in the just completed two-man competition. His team consists of Guido Acklin, Daniel Geiger, and Beat Seitz. Great starting team. A 5.61, by far the best start so far in this event. And the start, always important in bobsled, maybe even more crucial due to the shortness of this just 1,200-meter long track. Negotiating the four S's and a nice exit despite a quick buckle. They recover well. Their lead has been shortened, though, to just 100th of a second. However, Gochi with a 47.33 in the first heat has some 900ths of a second to play with in his lead over Jodai and Wiese. Looking strong now. And in a dead heat. Tied right now at the second to last split. It all boils down to this. And they're a 1/10 of a second back for the heat, but it is enough by 1300ths of a second to take the lead. Dirk Wiese knows it. He knows he will not win his third race. He's won at least a medal, but the Swiss will be the nation celebrating today in Königssee. So a finish time of 1:34.93, but it all began at the very first part of this course, the 4 big Spice sliders, with a 5.61, the best start time so far. And Reto Götze perhaps on his way to a rare 4-man victory. The standing, 1:34.93, the 2-heat time for Swiss 2. The Germans follow suit, tied for second and in 4th place. 1 sled remains.
If you want full office suite power at a word processor price, look no further than Corel WordPerfect Suite. Corel WordPerfect Suite includes an exceptionally intelligent word processor, an award-winning spreadsheet, amazing presentation graphics, plus business graphics and utilities, hundreds of fonts and thousands of clip art images. Corel WordPerfect Suite delivers office suite power at a word processor price.
World Cup Bobsleigh is being brought to you by Corel and WordPerfect Suite 7, 32-bit office, graphics, and internet power. We're down to our final sled here in Königssee, Germany. Reto Götze of Switzerland has the lead, looking for his first victory of what has been a disappointing season. But his teammate awaits at the top, Marcel Rohner, Switzerland number 1. This was the powerful Swiss team a few months ago when the weather was warm in Monte Carlo, the annual World Push Championships hosted by Prince Albert, and the Swiss sled had a top 3 showing, a sign that despite their veteran driving, they are improving at the start as well. Marcel Rohner's team now going for the real thing here. A victory, it would be their first. 5.61 was the start time, just put down by teammate Reto Götze. Ooh, but some trouble there at the top. 0.02 of a second slower, and you saw a little bit of a back and forth action on the part of the sled, and that could spell trouble as they make their way down. They need a time of 47.60 to tie the Swiss. The other Swiss, that is. This is going to be tight. That speed clock is wrong. It is not 29 kilometers an hour. Disregard that. 35.24. They're 0.08 of a second off. This is going to be very tight. Will it be one Swiss sled or the other? Götze and Swiss 2 at the finish. They have the lead, but here comes Swiss 1 around the finish. And they do not do it. Celebration for Reto Götze. Switzerland number 2 has captured the Corel World Cup 4-man competition here in Königssee, Germany. And handshakes and good sportsmanship from all of the Swiss competitors. The nation takes first and second place. Dirk Wiese, pictured right there, ends up in a tie for 3rd. Well, the start for Rohner and Swiss number 2, not among the 2 best so far in this event. And as a result, they end up 2nd best on the day. So a look at the final standings here at the Corel World Cup competition from Königssee, Germany. Switzerland 2 takes it by 0.02 of a second ahead of their teammates. Then it's a trio of Germans, but the celebration belongs to the Swiss.
It's the first title for us, and it makes us strong for the World Championship.
And a look at the standings with the 2nd place finish. Marcel Rohner extends his lead to 5 points ahead of Wolfgang Hoppe. Gunther Huber in 3rd place, then 2 more Germans, Wiese and Jodai. Combining the 2 and 4-man, Huber with a nice lead ahead of Marcel Rohner. Canadian Pierre Lueders currently in 3rd, and then Brian Scheimer. Well, the next stop on the Corel World Cup Bobsleigh Series will be a big one. The World Championships in St. Moritz, Switzerland. That's where we will come to you next on ESPN International. While the rest of the drivers focus on that, today is a celebration for Switzerland in the 4-man event as they take 1st and 2nd place. That's going to wrap things up from Königssee. We'll see you next time for the World Bobsleigh Championships from St. Moritz, Switzerland.